Good afternoon. It is Monday, December 12th, 2022. How's everyone out there today? Obviously, now's the time to push the panic button on the season because now what has happened, what has transpired over the last couple of weeks is exactly what I was afraid of. Minnesota and Buffalo. The Jets lost the last two games, which were very winnable. And the defense, they're pretty much playing their hearts out, except for the one fatal mistake. And then when it matters most, it becomes too little, too late. First of all, they were talking about on the TV how the Jets, who battled with a scoreless tie until late in the first half. There hasn't been a scoreless tie at halftime since 2019 or whatever, surely enough with Robert Saleh as defensive coordinator. They're talking about all that, and it sure looked, it was headed that way. They traded the first 10 possessions between the Jets and the Bills were all punts, and it was just a matter of gamesmanship. But when push came to shove, the turning point of the game, C.J. Mosley. Our defensive captain, right, takes an offside penalty where he almost suplexed Dawson Knox. And Dawson Knox, let me tell you something. I still maintain that they look like that was a false start. And that was what prompted Mosley to move. But no Jets made a motion. All the Bills made a motion at the Jets line. But I don't know. I really felt like Dawson Knox flinched, prompting C.J. Mosley to move. And I thought it was BS, but then again, that was the start of how many calls the Bills were getting, in the game. And when you don't get superstar, when you don't have really any superstars, you're not going to get the treatment. You're not going to get preferential treatment like Josh Allen does. It's insane how, So, and then of course, a couple of plays later, right down the field, said same tight end, Mr. Dawson Knox, got into the end zone and somersaulted into the end zone. 7-0 Bills. So after all of that, it took 29 and a half minutes for the scoreboard to break. And it's like, are you kidding? And that was the most deflating thing to happen at the half. But the Jets did not break because they went on the opening possession of the second half. They just marched right down the field, aided by Cole Things. And may I say, here's the officiating. Garrett Wilson makes a fantastic catch on the sideline. I forgot how many yards it was. And then he gets nailed by Jordan Poyer. And it was well after the fact. It's out of bounds. And no flat. And you're like, you don't give him an extra 15 for that? Come on. Clearly late. That was a Bush League hit. They don't call it. Where have we seen that before? Green Bay. The Green Bay game. I forgot who it was that got hit late I think it was Breece Hall. Breece Hall got hit late out of bounds. Nope, they picked. But whatever. Eventually, Mike White, and Mike White is quite the warrior. We'll get into that. He eventually, he finds Braxton Berrios, cement hands from last week. Found him, Braxton looked like he was looking at first. He made a fantastic catch for 30 yards. Setting up, and then Bam Knight finishes the drive with a touchdown from about maybe 12 yards. 7-7, you're like, all right, let's go. And you're thinking, we're doing this, Quinnen Williams, who earlier, late in the first half, came out of the game. It turns out he's day-to-day with a calf injury, and the Bills exposed that. Yeah, Quinnen Williams came out, and I'm thinking, they're gonna do this. They're coming out like that. They're gonna come out But then, after the Jets tied the game, all it took was 6 plays. The opening play, I believe, was the big 32-yarder to Stephon Diggs, who outside of that was really quiet for most of the game. He came out with a big catch, and then the Bills just totally... And then it was aided by a pass interference by Michael Carter II. Both Michael Carters had bad games yesterday. And, that set it up. The Bills took the lead, and they weren't giving it back. Now, let's bring it to Mike White. Mike White is arguably the best quarterback on the team right now. But something, in as much as we all wanted Zach Wilson benched, we all wanted this. Joe Flacco, got suited up. Zach Wilson has been, in street clothes for the last few games, ever since the Patriot disaster. Now, he must be in some sort of real doghouse with Robert Saleh, because Statue Joe came into the game yesterday. He came in for a whole drive because Mike White got hurt. And then, Mike White had to come out of the game. First time it was by Ed Oliver, gave him a nasty hit. And then Flacco came in, completed a drive, didn't get very far. But then, not long after that, Matt Milano, who was questionable to come into the game in the first place, that little dirty son of a comes in and just totally gives Mike White a nasty shot to the ribs, where White's laying almost motionless on the ground trying to breathe. And, I don't want to hear, he has a reputation for this, it seems. And he's just, Mike White, and we're like, how is this guy? It's like, it's over. I'm waving the white flag. I'm saying, we're done. We're toast. Done. And, he goes immediately to the locker room, and, and then in comes Glass Joe again. Glass Joe comes in, stands like a statue, gets strip sacks the ball. No, they don't even run the ball. They strip sack him of the ball, and then, Buffalo's coming right down the field, but they didn't get a touchdown out of it. They got a field goal. They got points out of it. They capitalized. They forced a turnover. So, 17-7. And then it just, the pancake, and I'm waving on, I'm like, we're done. I understand we're still within the game. We're hanging in there. But it's like, our main guy is hurt. The panic button's been pushed. And somehow, some way, we're still in this game. The Jets eventually go down 20-7. But somehow, some way, the Jets, and as much as, they've lost 4 of their last 6 games, they've shown that they haven't quit in the games that they have trailed. These last 2 games that they've trailed, they have showed that they will not quit. And yesterday, they got, Buffalo punt, they got a big block from Jermaine Johnson. It went for a safety because the Bills were pinned way back. So there's no way they were going to pick it up for a touchdown. So that was 20-9. So the Jets 20-9 end the ball after the safety. And Mike White came back into the game. Like, dear goodness, after taking the beating that he took, you see him walking out in the locker room saying, he ain't giving up. I'm like, how is this guy coming back in? So he's back in there and he's throwing, I'm like, this guy's taking it, and he's in obvious pain, this guy. But he's marching the Jets down the field. And we're like, if we got a score here, we've got a game. If we could score, get a 2-point conversion, and get a stop, we have a chance in this game. Unfortunately, on the drive, and we're moving and we're deep, we're on the Bills on the 23-yard line, and then Michael Carter, the first Michael Carter, number 32, the running back, Michael Carter goes and puts the ball on the ground. He gets it knocked away. The Bills recovered, and right then and there, you just said, that's it. Any hope of a comeback was lost. And it's like, you had a chance to make it a 1-score game. The way you've been moving, it felt like you were going to get in the end zone, the way you were moving the ball. And it's the way they're moving the ball, I think they're going to get in the end zone and get a 2-point, and they're back in this game by a field goal. Michael Carter fumbles, and then that's just obviously in the fourth quarter, choose more time off. The Jets do get the ball back. And then, Mike White is still moving the ball. And then yet, on a critical 4th and 1, they're on a 4th and 1. I forgot how far they were, but they were down there. And then instead of risking the 4th and 1, because they were probably going to see run and totally snuff Bam right out. I could see that. But they instead decided to take the points. Robert Saleh said he was juggling it. He said, take the points, we'll make it a 1-score game and trust the defense to get them off the field. But, you're asking, if you're taking the points, making it a 1-score game, 20-12, and then hoping your defense will stop it, and they almost didn't. And Josh Allen gave him a free play because on the ensuing drive, he decides to throw on the first play, and CJ Mosley got it away from Dawson Knox. So that gave him a free stoppage of the clock, and the Jets stopped the next two. So they get the ball back with, a timeout in their pocket, and to no avail. They didn't get much of anywhere. The final pass of the game was deflected midair, and that was it. And it was, the Jets once again, lose a game that they theoretically could have won. That, CJ Mosley's, bad penalty there led to points for the Bills. And, it's always the end of the defense. Much as this defense is good, they always seem to allow that critical play, that critical drive, like last week against the Vikings. They get within 5 points, and then they let the Vikings come right down the field for a touchdown. The same thing happened after they tied the game yesterday, and in 6 plays, boom, 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 they're down 14-7. So it's just like, much as you love this defense and they're doing fantastic, and they're an upper echelon defense for a reason, the Buffalo Bills were to be had. That's the same Buffalo Bills team you beat, just last month. And you should have beaten them again. And Josh Allen was pedestrian yesterday. He only threw for 147 yards. I forgot how many he rushed for, but, he wasn't that impressive yesterday either. Statistically, with the exception of turnovers, it felt like the Jets did so much more on offense. And just aided by so much self-destruction. That's what happened. So, in as much as 2 games they let slip, I mean, yeah, the Apollo will be, well, they took 2 championship contending teams to the ropes, and they know they can play with them, blah, blah, blah. Now's not the time for that, okay? We're 7-6. We're officially out of a playoff spot. The Chargers beat Miami yesterday. Thanks a lot, Tua. We are now on the outside looking in. And looking at the teams around them, like the Chargers, the Patriots. I believe, does anyone else have 6 wins right now? I think anything after that is 5 and 8. The Patriots have a very difficult schedule to wrap the year. Miami's got, the next week they have the Bills. I can't remember the schedule offhand. I can't, but I know, and to add to this, the Jets, a lot of tiebreakers are against the Jets that they have to finish outright with a better record than these teams. A lot of these tiebreakers are against them. Now, Buffalo has a tiebreak on. I think Buffalo now, the division tiebreak. The Jets are now 2-3 in the division. Buffalo is, I forgot what they are. Are they 1 and? I forgot what the Bill. I think they're 2-2 in the division now. They won in New England. They just beat the Jets. They lost to the Jets. They lost to Miami. Yeah, they're 2-2 in the division. So they can, unless they somehow fizz out against Miami and New England, Buffalo's likely going to finish better than the Jets in division record. I mean, a lot of people are saying the Jets and the Dolphins might be the game that decides be the deciding factor. Who knows? But right now, at this rate, I don't feel good. The Jets have a hot Detroit Lion team coming in. They were 1-6. Now they're 6-7. And they did what the Jets couldn't do last week. Beat Minnesota. Now, to be fair, division matchups are very unpredictable. You never know with division matchups sometimes. But the Detroit Lions are a much improved team. Their defense, they still have one of the worst scoring defenses in the league, but still, offensively, they've been ridiculous. And so, the game worries me. And by the way, here in the Orlando area, we'll have the game next Sunday. I'm excited for that. You've got Detroit, you've got Jacksonville, and Jacksonville, the AFC South is just terrible, period. They're actually competing for the AFC South. They're only 2 games out. They're only 2 games outside of the AFC South. I mean, the Titans are terrible. And Jacksonville's 5-8, but, they have something to play for. Just because, they aren't that great, but still, the AFC South as a whole is terrible. So you got Jacksonville. You've got who's next after that? Seattle. Seattle losing a lousy Carolina. Seattle's another one that's who are you? You know, but they still have Metcalf and Lockett, you know, but they're very beatable. And then Miami. If the Jets want to make it to the dance, they have to win 3 of their next 4 games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts from this point forward. In fact, there's really no room for error, period, if they want to get to the dance. 7-6, you know, and with all these tiebreakers against them, it's like, now what, you know? You know, looking at the strengths, they have one of the toughest strengths of schedule left. And it's a scary thought. It's a very scary thought. So, anyway, that being said, I'm going to roll out for now. Now I have to sit on this again until Sunday, right? Anyway, that being said, I'm going to peace out for now. Catch you guys next week.